Good morning, and welcome to Week 6 of the NFL season. It's already here, and welcome to Prop Till You Drop, NFL player prop bets with the fantasy football degenerate, Jan Ryan, and myself, Emil Kadlec. And how are you doing, Jan?
Good. I cannot believe it's Week 6 already. It flies by. It's too fast.
Yeah, despite all the craziness with COVID and stuff, it still seems to be going quite quickly. But I guess we'll have to get used to that.
At least we got Tuesday Night Football, right? That was the first.
Pardon?
Yeah. I said at least we got Tuesday Night Football, right? That was
that was weird.
A first,
that was
or
so
I think
weird.
The second time it's happened.
Yeah, it was very strange. And then not to have Thursday after all this time. I think it was 0-2 when it was so that was crazy. So you ready to get into quarterbacks?
I am. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we are, quarterbacks. Let us know what you got.
Lots of quarterbacks to score props, and of course I feel like we do have to start with Cam Newton. I think for anyone who kind of questioned over the offseason if Cam was going to win this job, we saw exactly what the Patriots looked like without him, and it wasn't good. And one of the best things about Cam is his mobility, of course, and it's really cool to see Josh McDaniels finally have this toy to play with. But I think we've been saying this about Cam since his Carolina days. He's like the best goal line back in football, period. I mean, he's huge. When they're 5 yards out, the defense can stack the box. It doesn't matter that they know it's coming. Cam still has a tendency to get it over the line. And I really think this is like a surefire bet as anything this weekend. He's going to be super excited to come back. He's going to be super excited to punch one in himself. And I really love Cam to score this week in this game.
So is that to score a rushing touchdown or to score any touchdown?
Rushing touchdown.
Rushing touchdown.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like that too. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's a fun one. And then, of course, this Tampa Bay Green Bay game, I'm sure as everybody else is, I'm so excited for this game. We're going to be watching these two legendary quarterbacks go at it. I would argue that this isn't Tampa against Green Bay. It's Aaron Rodgers against Tom Brady. These guys are two of the most competitive quarterbacks in football. They are going to try to one up each other the entire game. And then I saw this line at 302.5, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, like both of these guys could throw for 400 yards this weekend. I have not been this excited for. I keep saying it's a vintage gunslinging football game in a while. I think we, as hardcore football fans, are blessed to have this game on the slate this weekend. Your thoughts, Emil, on Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance to go over 300. I think, things have changed from last year. I think he's gotten more motivated. Maybe they've gotten more used to each other, him and the head coach. And, he still he's missing, who was he missing today? He's missing Lazard. He should have, this weekend, he should have Devontae Adams back. And, the running backs can catch the ball. A lot of them can. So I think that really helps him, and I like it. I think he could make it over 302.5.
Same, and with Adams back for this game wouldn't be nearly as enjoyable if Adams wasn't back. So thrilled that he's back on the field. And then pivoting over to Stafford.
He is too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
He was a little upset.
Oh yeah. Stafford. This is probably going to sound stupid, but he's almost like an Aaron Rodgers light, just in the way that he throws the ball. Just like will fearlessly drop back and just launch it. And that's why, I'm on this prop this week too at 285.5, coming out of the bye. I always love looking at an offense coming out of the bye, seeing what they might implement here. And then this game against Jacksonville, I'm expecting a lot of throwing. More so just because this is a passing offense. This this run game, not much to speak of. When Adrian Peterson is your top running back at this point, you're just a passing offense. And same thing with his weapons. Kenny Galladay, thank God they didn't rush him back and they waited until he was fully healthy because he just fully cemented himself back into wide receiver one status. So I'm definitely on this prop too. Full disclosure, it's going to be all overs today. We don't bet unders on this show.
Now, Stafford, on our cheat sheet, on Football Diary's cheat sheet, we have him at 264 yards. Now, remember, he's ranked 8th, and, it's pretty, I don't know what you want to call it, conservative. Now, he's playing Jacksonville, and according to our defensive stats on footballdiaries.com, they're the 5th worst defense in the league. So I like that bet on Stafford. I definitely like that bet. Now, I hope they're down a little. I know they probably it helps when they're behind, but I think they pass anyway. More than rush.
Sure. I mean, the game script totally favored. I mean, for this prop in our perfect world, the Lions go down a score or two early, and they just come out throwing. And relative to fantasy, Stafford's a great streaming option this week. Good chance he might be on your waivers, especially if people might have dropped him during the bye last week.
That's a good point. Excellent point.
And then we have, of course, the Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah. He's like, I know he's a bit. I picked him up. I'm playing him in 2 leagues, in a league where I stream quarterbacks. And then there's the Ryan Fitzpatrick revenge game, which alone the narrative. Playing his former team, and kind of like Cam Newton, he is just not afraid. He's not afraid to run the ball. He doesn't slide. He puts his head down. He loves throwing out an old man stiff arm. 20 and a half yards for Fitzpatrick. Let's say he runs for a first down twice, right? I mean, that prop's probably going to hit. And he does that. He's not afraid to run the ball. Listen, if this was at 15 yards, I would have hammered it, but 21 and a half, I just, Fitzpatrick's one of these guys, we joke with the Fitz tragic and the Fitz magic, but when it's Fitz magic, it hits, and he plays really, really well, and nothing fires Ryan Fitzpatrick up more than running the ball and breaking a tackle. So I'm here for it. Give me the over on that too.
Yeah, He's so funny. Again, I always talk about how much fun. I'm going to be really sad the day he really, truly retires, because he's just so much fun. He's just having fun. He's laughing. He's joking. And he sticks his head in there. You're just kind of like, is this the last? Is he going to get hurt? But 20 and a half, that's very tempting. That's very tempting. I like that.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a tight line, but I don't know. I see this Dolphins team. It's a rivalry to begin with, right? And then you got him going against his former team. Joe Flacco on the other side of the ball again. 2 kind of bets. It's going to be a fun game to watch. And a fired up Fitzpatrick running the ball. He thrives on contact sometimes. So I'm looking forward to seeing him use his legs.
He got 16 yards rushing last week, if that says anything. I mean, it's a close one. It's a close one. He's got 131 yards so far this season in how many games. So, yeah, it's a good bet. I like it, especially with the revenge game. He's going to want to win.
It's about his average, and we just want him to get 1 more yard than usual, and then we'll be good to go. And then my favorite thing to do is parlays. Now, of course, it's hard to get one bet right, let alone more than one. But parlays are fun, and if you feel good about props, you feel good about more than one prop, you just go ahead and start parlaying them. We could talk towards the end. I have a ton of great parlays in this week, but so far for this quarterback parlay, we spoke already so much about Aaron Rodgers' passing yards and Matthew Stafford's passing yards. If you feel good about both of those outcomes, why not parlay it and then look at the payout that you get at plus 261. I really, in all of the quarterback parlays that I can throw around this week, this is hands down my favorite one.
Yeah, that's a big number right there, 261. I like it. That's going to make the game a lot more fun to watch too. Not that it's already fun, is that they're going to play that one up. That's a fun one.
There's going to be so much throwing in both of those games.
All right, let me see if I can't flip to the next slide here. Running backs.
Yeah, we probably have to talk about the chalk that is Madison, right? I mean, we have DFS ownership on footballdiehards.com, and correct me if I'm wrong, Emil, but he's probably going to be one of the highest owned running backs on.
Let me go to the ownership tab here as you talk.
Yeah. Here's one thing I'll say about Madison. You know, especially in the offseason for those of us to do it hard basketball drafting, there are very few running backs in the league where if they miss a game or they get injured, their backup is just going to come right in and assume that role and perform very similar. Madison's one of those guys. You know, very good chance he wasn't available in any of your leagues because he has standalone value, and I'm not saying he's Dalvin Cook, but I'm saying he does put up Dalvin Cook numbers when Dalvin Cook isn't there. So 81.5, this feels low to me. I'm not accusing the book of getting it wrong. It just feels low.
Yeah, on our cheat sheet, we have him fairly high ranked at 11th, and we have him for 108 yards rushing. And you're right about his ownership in DFS. He's the number one owned running back, 25%. So huge number there.
Yeah.
And
he's cash game lock.
Yeah. And they're playing Atlanta now. Atlanta may have that emotion in that game. They're playing at Minnesota against Atlanta. You know, they've changed their coach, and I always worry about playing against a team where that happens. But they're still an 0 and whatever team, 0 and 5 team. So I think that's a great bet personally.
Sure, and with the coaching change, that's such a good point. I mean, we saw it with the Texans, right? It's like they just needed to be freed from their head coach to come out there and play well and get a win. So we very well could see that. The Falcons are mind-blowing. I think that they're the most talented, worst team in football, I think, hands down.
Yeah, difficult scenario. Lost some tough games.
Yeah, especially that Cowboy game. And then, I said especially that Cowboy game. And sticking with this game, Todd Gurley on the other side of the ball, he's been like the lone consistency of the Atlanta Falcons offense. You know, everyone thought he was cooked. Everyone thought he was toast. Everyone thought his knee was dead. And, you know, he heads back to Georgia, where he's from. And look at him thrive. He's coming off his 100-yard game, his first 100-yard game. And, again, this line just – but this is how they pull me in, Emil. They put this low, tempting line, you know, 57.5. I see that, and I'm like, that's a guarantee. And, you know, you just want to throw all your money at it. But, I mean, you know, Gurley, his worst game this season was 56 yards. So that's why, again, I'm definitely not smarter than anybody making these lines, but it just feels wrong.
Oh, that's an interesting stat you just pulled out. That really tells you that he probably has a good shot at going over in that 57.5. That's an excellent one. Wow.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to get it from Madison and Daly, I think Gurley's a fun pivot, just because everybody's going to be all over Madison, and there's going to be a ton of points in that game. So you might as well go on the other side if you want to be a bit contrarian, if you will.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. I like that. We have him at 69 yards this week and a touchdown in our rankings. We have him ranked number 9, so we have him a pretty high ranking right now.
And a little bit above Madison, then. All right, good. I'll go for more money on that.
Each other.
I feel better about it already. And then, you know, there's Antonio Gibson. All I heard all summer was, this guy's not a running back. This guy's a wide receiver. Yet the book is still keeping his reception line kind of low, and they even have a plus payout on him at plus 112. You know, This is a division game against two not great teams. But with that said, I still think there's going to be a lot of scoring in it. I think it's going to be played close. Game script is going to keep him heavily involved, I feel, in the passing game. And again, receiving is what he does. That's his prowess. He's got 5 targets in back-to-back games. And in my mind, a running back who sees looks in the passing games, 4 catches really isn't that much. So we'll see how it shakes out, but it's just another line that you see and you're like, okay, I have to bet that.
He's playing at the Giants. Giants have a fairly low defense so far. I don't think that's going to change this weekend, so that's a good one.
Feel good about it.
Excellent.
And then, of course, there's Ezekiel Elliott. While I don't bet my Cowboys, I do bet player props. I'm not that superstitious and jinxy. Here's the deal. We can't expect Andy Dalton to come out and throw the ball at the volume and with the efficiency that Dak Prescott was throwing the ball. Dak was on pace for a career year. But if that's said, it's not like Andy Dalton is some career backup. The guy was a starting quarterback in this league for many, many years, and really, he is going to spend this season auditioning for his next starting job. I mean, that's the feeling you get. You know, the word around Dallas is, Andy Dalton is not playing for that job. He is going to showcase. Team says they're so committed to Dak Prescott. And, part of what he is going to have to showcase, of course, is throwing the ball. I just don't expect the same passing volume. This is a team that is invested, as we know, they invested an early round pick in Ezekiel Elliott. They invested a lot of money in him. And we should expect, not to quote Tony Dungy's craziness from last weekend, but we should expect a bit of a shift to the running game. And, last season, if we saw Ezekiel Elliott's rushing yardage prop at 89.5, we'd be throwing a ton of money at it, right? Because of the way the season started out, the line has come down a little bit. I love this line. I'm expecting 100 yards out of him. And, 89.5, it's the highest line of the running back props that I have on here this week, but it still feels very, very attainable for Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, you make perfect sense. The first week of Dalton, getting in there full time, they're going to want to try and establish the run. We're going to help Dalton, without having to pass a lot. I think it's a great bet. We got him at 106 yards. That's a little over 89.5. And I think the scheme makes a lot of sense. I don't think that would change there at home against Arizona. I hope I makes a lot of sense. They're just going to come out running and see how it goes from that point.
Yeah, and really anything to keep that horrific defense off the field. And, why not chew clock? Why not chew clock with your very, very well-paid bell cow? A bonus bet I love here, we've talked so much already about this Falcons-Vikings game. And sometimes I just love going in the other direction. Everyone's going to be all over Madison and DFS. People are going to hammer their props. People are so excited to start him. He could be the RB1 in fantasy football this weekend. But if you feel good about Gurley, if you feel like Gurley could have another 100-yard game, if he can even just get one more yard than Alexander Madison, that payout at plus 153, that's a really fun bet that the book that I bet on, Sugar House, they'll offer in-game which player to have more than the other. And this was one that immediately caught my eye, and I had to throw a few dollars on. I really like that prop. And back to a fantasy aspect, say you're playing a lot of Madison in your daily leagues and your home leagues, and you want to hedge a little bit, this is a fun bet to place.
So let me understand. It's Todd Gurley, the most rushing yards of any player this week?
No, in that game. That's an in-game
Oh, that
parlay.
in the game. Sorry, my ignorance shows.
No. Yeah, basically, will Todd Gurley have more rushing yards than Alexander Madison? It's doable.
53.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Oh, thank you.
Off to the wide receivers. Here we are. Oh my gosh, Chase Claypool.
I know it's. Here's the thing, guys. If you have Claypool and you weren't able to trade him, hope that he has a huge game this week and then get rid of him only because he is never going to replicate what he did last week. I mean, that's, 4 touchdowns. It's crazy. Ultimate sell high if you believe Deontay Johnson comes back healthy and resumes his role, right? With that said, he's got a really good chance to score a touchdown. I mean, he's pretty good at that. We've seen that. And again, anytime I see a positive payout on something that I feel like is a lock, so to speak, it's very easy for me to throw that one out there. I mean, the odds of Chase Claypool scoring a touchdown this weekend are very good.
Yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, Deontay Johnson, and this is Saturday morning, by the way, and he's already ruled out. So we know Claypool is going to be, going to give the opportunity. He's going to be a starter, and that's a nice bet.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like we have the opportunity now to see Juju fall back into the wide receiver 2 role that he had when Antonio Brown was on the field, and he just functions better schematically, I feel, as a high-end wide receiver 2, less than a wide receiver 1. And we've seen it when Deontay is on the field. Now we've seen it with Chase Claypool, and just again, high-powered offense. Very, very good chance he scores.
That's going to be a good one. And it's incredible how Pittsburgh got this guy. They seem to have this ability to get these excellent receivers in without having to spend a lot of draft cash, because I don't remember where he was picked, but he wasn't picked very high. So it's going to be exciting to see how they develop these 3 receivers over the next couple of years.
Their scouting department deserves all the credit in the world. They are very, very good at finding these gems.
Fantastic.
I have to reposition one of my pets really quick, Emil, because he is right in front of my screen. Come on, buddy, and I can.
Oh my God! What's the name of the cat?
That's my buddy Wade. He's actually named after Wade Phillips. He didn't have a name when I adopted him, and then the Cowboys fired Wade Phillips, and I was so sad, so I just started calling him Wade.
That is a monster cat.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's a good boy, though. Small buddy. He loves to sit right in front of my screen because he likes to see what's going on anytime there's movement on the screen, and
that's
he is
funny.
kind of big, and yeah. Moving away from Wade and over to Kenny Galladay, the receiving yards, 65.5. Full disclosure, this would be a season high for Galladay, but I'm here for it. I mean, sort of like, Green Bay taking that approach with Devontae Adams, let's not put him out there until he's healthy. They waited on Galladay. Even the week before he made his debut, they said he probably could have went, but they just wanted him 100%. And then, of course, he comes out in his 2 back-to-back games. He's got 15 targets, I think, in both of those games combined. And, he just came right in, 2 touchdowns, touchdown in each game, and just totally resumed his role as Matthew Stafford's top target. I love this line. Again, it would be a season high for him. We talked about Stafford a lot with the quarterbacks. I'm expecting a ton of throwing in that game. Please don't be surprised if Kenny Galladay gets his first 100-yard game this season this week.
Woo! Yeah, he got 57 in week 3 at Arizona and 62 at home against New Orleans. He's at Jacksonville. He's had time to rest. I think it's a good bet. That's a nice one.
Yeah. Again, coming out of the bye, I love betting an offense coming out of the bye week. It's just they're fresh. They've implemented any tweaks they've had to, and it's exciting to see.
65.5. I think that's very, very doable.
Do you know what we have him at, Emil?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We don't have him very high. We have him ranked 31st, so we have him at 46 yards. But I wouldn't worry about that. That's more of a conservative estimate. I definitely think that he could go over 65.
And even those 46 yards, right? Let's say that's what we have him quote unquote projected at. It's just one more long pass from Stafford to go over this prop, and that's the appeal for Stafford in both fantasy and prop betting is he launches it. He's not a check down artist. So you got to love that with the 65.5 line.
Definitely.
Another game we talked a ton about already is this Brady Rogers showdown. Adams healthy. When I first saw the line at 6.5, I'm thinking, God, like, oh man, that's a lot. 7 catches is a lot. Then I'm like, that's not a lot for Devontae Adams. And the book agrees with me. I mean, look at the juice they're taking. They're taking on that at minus 155. So, I think it's a really, really good bet to go over. Rogers has been missing him. They were going to get him involved often and early. He could. It's crazy, when you say it, you're like, oh my God, that's ambitious. But he could go into the second half with this prop already hitting. Just
Yeah, we don't have him. We ranked him 11th right now. We're being a little careful with Devontae Adams. So we have him a little bit lower ranking, which means his receptions are like 5, whatnot. But 6.5, so he's got to get 7 receptions. Yeah, I like that. I think he's healthy now. He could have played last week, etc. So it's a good bet. They're not giving us any favors, but I still think he can beat 6.5.
Same. It's all about the volume. I think he's going to see double-digit targets, and at the point of the catch, he's just very good at bringing that ball down. So it's one of those that it looks like a big line, but it's really not for him.
Let's hope it's a blowout game. 35-35.
Just a huge shootout. For what it's worth, I took the halftime over at, I think, 27.5 points total. I'm just expecting just a ton of scoring early. There's not going to be a lot of feeling each other out in this one. It's going to be short, quick drives and just a ton of scoring. And, you got to figure Adams is going to be on the other end of a lot of this action. And then there's probably the most unsung hero of both fantasy football and prop betting so far this season, Jamison Crowder. It's like nobody wants to acknowledge what this guy does. He's done nothing but have 100-yard games this season. He's done it with Darnold. He's done it with Flacco. From a fantasy perspective, he is the only New York Jet you're ever playing, ever. So when I see 65.5, it's just a really curious line considering, again, he's played in 3 games this year and they've all went over 100. Curious your opinion on it though, Emil, because it's like I feel like only person that respects him.
Yeah, he missed 2 games, and the 3 other games he's gone 115, 104, and 116 at Buffalo, Denver, Arizona. So really, the stats tell you that he's had some big gains in the game, which got him to there. But 65.5, at Miami, he's going to have a different quarterback. But did he have Flacco in Week 5? Yeah, he did. So it makes a lot of sense. And he's getting a lot of targets. He had 13, 10, and 10, caught 7, 7, and 8. Everything tells you he should be able to get over 65 in this game.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Again, I think people see a New York Jet and they're like, oh, no. And it's like, just to ignore the team he plays for and focus on the production and hopefully make a little bit of money.
I'm sure he's being double-teamed, but he's still getting the targets and he's still getting a high percent of the catches. So, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and really, he's usable anywhere. He runs out of the slot. He runs deep. Flacco has no problem taking shots. I saw an interview with Torrey Smith earlier in the week, and I forget who it was who asked him, and they said, who throws the best long ball? And he didn't even hesitate. He just said Flacco, Joe Flacco, without hesitation, So 65.5, I don't know. Could he get to someone catch? Possibly. I like it.
Let's don't be cocky now.
Yeah. This line gives me Robbie Anderson vibes in the sense that the book refuses to give Robbie Anderson like a high receiving line. I bet he's averaging, I think, 96 yards per game, and every week you can get his line at about 73 to 75. It's just one of those things. It's like an auto bet for me. And I was expecting a higher line for Crowder, which is why I'm on it this week.
Yeah, makes sense. That's great.
And then, of course, these two score touchdowns, they're fun to bet, but even more fun is betting who's going to score first. And if you're feeling lucky, look at that line on Claypool. If
11.
Claypool scores, yeah, plus 1100. That's what I call scratch off table. That's if you go down to 7-Eleven or whatever they have down in Albuquerque and you buy a $10 scratch off. You know, you could win $110. Those bets to score first are incredibly random. There is no logic to it. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just, hey, it can happen, and low stakes, high payout. It's just a fun one.
That's a big number, 1,100. That'd be fun to put a couple bucks on that.
It's just my other cat now. Sorry.
Drama queens, those cats.
The cat's
all right.
It's over here.
Tight ends, here we come.
So, tight end is tough this week. I mean, I went through every game looking at tight end lines, and just nothing really stuck out, honestly. So that's why I have a lot of these two score ones. Again, bringing it back to a fantasy perspective, if you don't have a Travis Kelce, if you don't have a Mark Andrews, if you don't have one of these top tight ends, you're looking for a guy to score a touchdown. That's where you're going to get your points from your tight end, is if they score a touchdown. So as you can see here, I've got Jimmy Graham to score, Rob Gronkowski to score, Mike Gesicki to score. The logic behind it is, Jimmy Graham, he's not getting a lot of yards. I don't think he's broken 40 yards this season, but he's like 9 feet tall. Anytime he's on the field, we have to hear 45 times about how he used to play basketball, and he's just a good player. He's just this big giant man who's gets the targets in the red zone. So plus 225 for Jimmy Graham to score a touchdown. Sure, why not? I mean, that's sort of what you're betting on if you're playing with fantasy anyway, right? And then of course there's Gronk. Again, this Brady Rogers game. It's a vintage. There's going to be so much scoring, and you have to think that there's a good chance that there's going to be some old school magic between Brady and Gronk in the end zone. It's just a payout I really like. And then there's Gesicki. I mean, I watch the red zone every Sunday. I see him pop up. I have him on a lot of my fantasy teams, and again, with your tight ends, you want somebody to score. Johnny Smith, on the other hand, he's somebody whose receiving line I see at 44 and a half, and I'm like, this guy's good for at least 50 yards. Granted, Tannehill is spreading the ball around, but they're throwing the ball, even with Derrick Henry back there, and that's what you like to see. I mean, they did not let up last week, despite the lead. So, you love to see it.
And by the way, Jimmy Graham has 38% of the 10 zone for Chicago, which is a high number for the team percentage. So, yeah, he's getting the ball, near the end zone at the goal line. Let me go check. Gesicki, I'm pretty sure, has got to be pretty high. He's 44% in the 10 zone. So you're picking some tight ends there, and maybe that's typical of a tight end, not necessarily. Let me look at Jonnu real quick here. If I could spell, he's getting 33%. So those three tight ends, 4 of them, probably Gronkowski. Gronkowski's probably lower, but those are good numbers for 10 zone.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what, I love, too, that we have 10 zone, 5 zone, because, red zone, kind of don't care about that. I don't really care about what's going on 20 yards out. It just means a little bit more from 10 yards out. I mean, from 10 yards out, that's the jump ball. That's the quarterback. Just Jimmy Graham, get your ass back to the back corner of the end zone and throwing it up, and just jump higher than the other guy and grab it. And when you see that more than a quarter of the targets are going to these guys in the 10 zone, it makes you feel a lot better about this prop bets.
And Gronk is only at 13, so I would consider him a little more riskier. Now, this is year to date. He may be more important now if with O.J. Howard out, maybe, the probability numbers have gone up.
And this is just purely the matchup. And the points in the game. That's, I wouldn't bet Gronk to score every week. I mean, there was a time in his New England days, Emil, where I was betting him to score twice a week every week because he was scoring touchdowns early in the game, and he had I forget what season it was, he had so many multi-touchdown games that it was just like an easy, again, scratch-off Gronk to score twice. And then, I do think we have to talk about Trey Burton. He is one of these chalk tight ends this week. It's all I've heard about on Twitter all week, and I feel like, am I the only one who's been burned way too many times by Trey Burton? I've passed on him on waivers in every league. I have no interest. With that said, 26.5 receiving yards, I mean, they give that to some of these, third down running backs. That feels like a line that is really something to consider. I mean, especially when you see the way the DFS community is on him this week. 26.5 just feels a little mispriced. Feels like the
That's a good one. He's kind of become the number one tight end, for the Colts. And it kind of surprised everybody because, you kind of consider him an old guy who's, he's not worth anything anymore. And all of a sudden, he's kind of the number one tight end there. He did get 33 yards last week at Cleveland. He was targeted 6 times, 5 catches. That's telling us that there's a good chance he could get over 26.5 against Cincinnati at home.
Yeah, I just think the bookmakers are not reading DFS Twitter nearly as much as I am. so it's just when, if you want a piece of the chalk and you want to eat a piece of the chalk, 26.5 feels really, really good.
Now, that's a good one. Fantastic.
Yep.
I guess that's all of them. Do you have any other inputs you want to pop in here?
I have a couple of crazy little player props that I figured I'd share just because sometimes some parlays. Sometimes I like to, be transparent here. Probably my craziest parlay I have this week. It's a 4-leg. The over on A.J. Brown's receiving yards, 64.5. Madison's rushing yards, 81.5. Galladay, who we talked about, 65.5, and that Fitzpatrick rushing prop at 20.5. So again, we went through 20 props today, right?
Yeah.
If you look at all 20 of these props or any props that you're looking at, and you feel really, really good about 4 of them, again, it's hard to get 1 bet right, but if you happen to get 4 bets right, that prop right there plays plus 1,066. So true scratch off. That's my big scratch off this weekend, and I think
that's a good one. That's fun.
Yeah.
So you have many scratch offs that work for you?
Sometimes, yeah. I had
or parlays, should I say?
Yeah, they're parlays. 2 weeks ago, the book was offering a parlay. It was a 14 parlays, 4 teams to win, and it was the week the Texans got their first win. I can't remember the other teams that were in it, but those are a lot of fun. I like kind of, where I live, people used to hand out these tickets where you'd make your picks for the week,
Uh-huh.
and it was the same as picking like a 4-leg parlay. And again, you're not throwing a ton of money on this. My favorite thing is, if you're on gambling Twitter, I guess if you want to call it, a lot of these sports books will share somebody who maybe did like a 19 pick'em at like $10, and all they need is that night game to win like thousands of dollars. Those are the fun ones I like. But I really I love these player props too, and I love that you used to just be able to parlay football games, which is tough because the bookmakers have been setting these football lines for like years.
Decades.
They haven't fully caught up to player props yet. I feel like we're still able to kind of find inefficiencies with these player props. And these touchdown scoring ones are really, really fun to parlay, especially if you play a lot of fantasy football and you feel good about people scoring. I mean, we talked about Claypool scoring. We talked about Cam Newton scoring. It's another one that I parlayed this week. And then I have one more phone player parlay. Rodgers over 302.5 yards. Galladay again over 65.5. Parlayed with Will Fuller to score a touchdown.
Oh my!
That pays plus. Yeah, it plays plus 691. But if you feel good about all those things happening, why not?
Yeah, that sounds good. That's fantastic. Well, beautiful. That's exciting. Going to be fun. I got to find a place to put some bets in here in New Mexico. I haven't done that yet.
I think you should. I think you should.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck in week 6, and also to the people watching, good luck. Let's have some fun with some prop bets, mixing it up with fantasy football.
Yes, let's beat the house this week. That's what we want to do every week.
Talk to you later, Jen.